Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Colin, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we're joined by our producer, Richard.
Oh, hoy, hoy.
Each week, we talk about the world of DC Comics and field questions from listeners like you, while I know stuff about things. Okay, so last week? Weeks and weeks and weeks ago.
Last week,
we kind of put it out there for listeners if they were to 5-star rate us.
Yep.
That's right.
On iTunes.
That's right.
They could include a comment, and then I would have to say the thing.
That's right.
Yeah, specifically like something for Colin to describe himself. And this week we got that he knows stuff about things.
Amazing. So this is going to, I think, kind of become a regular thing.
What Colin does.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I do on the show. Sort of. So this was sent in by, I'm notorious for fucking this up, Bobolethon?
I think Bobolethon.
It sounds like
when I first wrote it, I actually I had a spelling mistake and I had to reprint it because I wrote it Bob Dole-a-thon.
Bob Dole.
I know. I got really happy and I was like, no, that's not right.
So, but also kind of a nice little comment from Bobolethon.
Yeah.
Was they said these guys are pretty knowledgeable about the DC world they are talking about each week. Worth a listen. That was kind of nice.
And how generous to just say these guys and not leave Colin out.
Yeah, I'm in there too.
The fact that he didn't just say Dr. DC, I'm impressed.
Extremely generous.
Very cool.
Very nice man.
So thank you. If you'd like to submit what Colin does to be read on Dr. DC intro, please add it to a review on iTunes attached to a 5-star rating. But be kind.
Don't be kind.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. This is going to get out of hand very fast.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
As long as you get a 5-star rating, say whatever you want.
That's right.
And then I have to say it. Okay, so in news, Warner Bros. Is working on Joker versus Harley Quinn spin-off movie. Holy fuck.
Yeah, so the idea
It's an animated movie, isn't it?
No.
Whoa, really?
This is like a pre-development thing. Like nothing.
Are they hanging onto the original characters from the Suicide Squad movies?
Yes. Nothing is being like officially greenlit yet, but the idea is that they're developing a movie where Harley kicks Joker to the curb. Did you not like Suicide Squad? Right.
I would be excited to see them playing crib against one another. You know, cribbage, like the card game, the pegging on the boards.
I'm trying to find the connection here, and I'm just not.
Yeah.
Well, it's Joker versus Harley Quinn.
Yeah, you know how cribbage is always someone versus someone.
You know, winner takes all.
So
Winner gets the crib.
Oh no. So at any rate, I mean the idea, I think, if I were an exec at DC Films, would be to listen to the backlash from Suicide Squad.
Listen to it so hard. But listen to this.
Sure. Yes. But namely, like,
How do you spell that?
whether or not you liked
TTTLBTT.
Hey. Hey.
Sorry, Mom.
No, I think if you're listening to the criticism, the idea is like either like whether you liked him or not, there wasn't that much Joker in that movie. We were promised a lot of Joker and there wasn't a lot.
Thank God.
Frankly, like my verdict's still out. I don't know.
We didn't see it. So
You like
that's
that
why.
Yo Dog Joker?
I don't know. I didn't see enough of him. So this movie would theoretically show you more of him, but also would theoretically address the idea that Harley Quinn has no agency because the movie would be her kicking him to the curb.
She was the only good part of that friggin' movie.
I'll be honest, I don't really want to see this. I have no interest.
I get why they're doing it. I mean,
But I think I understand where it's coming from. But I don't want to see it.
people are gonna see it.
If they make it, I'll see it because I'm like that. But I don't want to.
No. Yeah. I don't want to have to see this.
I want to see more Harley. I can do without this Joker, I think. But again, I'm still not 100% sure because I barely saw him.
I'll take as much Margot Robbie as possible.
Yeah, that's fair. Great casting.
100%.
Jeff Johns has started work on
Oh, Jeff Johns, our buddy.
Script.
Jeff Johns.
Huddled with Jenkins to hash out some story points.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's Jenkins?
Patty Jenkins,
Patty Jenkins.
who directed Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Oh, how'd she do?
Pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I think
what was the movie called? Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
It was like a League of Their Own kind of thing.
Modest but optimistic numbers.
Yeah, bit.
Tom Hanks was in there crying, drinking.
There's no crying in superheroes.
There's no crying on Themyscira. There's no men on Themyscira.
Tom Hanks.
I wish I did that on the first day.
Yeah.
Damn it. But yeah, Jeff Johns, who we have also outed secretly as John Johns, the Martian Manhunter. He's started work on the Wonder Woman 2 script, and they also released what the release date will be, and it's December 2019. So lots to look forward to with Wonder Woman 2. And I believe, if the rumors are correct, that the sequel is also set in the past again, but this time in the 80s, near the end of the Cold War. Ooh. And so sort of up against those old commie Russians that I've missed so much.
I know. They were such good villains.
We've heard so much about them in the news recently, though. It's like they've never gone anywhere at all.
It's the time. You know what? I mean, it's bringing forth the great 80s villain.
Unfortunately timely, but yeah.
But who is there anybody who would be a villain from that time period?
I'm not from the 80s. Okay, if we want to dig a little weirdly into DC Comics, and we're thinking of the Soviet Union, and if they made themselves a super villain or a superhero, even Rocket Red. The Rocket Red Brigade were basically these guys in robot suits, almost like an Iron Man kind of thing or an Ironmonger kind of thing. And Rocket Red ends up just being a hero, and he joins the Justice League in the comics and things like that. It might be interesting if he was not necessarily the villain, but
a character.
He's a hero who thinks he's doing good, but he's part of that Soviet system, and then realizes that maybe there's a better way.
Stuff happens.
Et cetera. Yeah. We know that they can't use KG Beast because Anatoly Knyazov has already been in the DCEU, and Batman set him on fire big time. Yeah, he's the one that's holding Martha Kent hostage and I'll kill her. That's his Russian accent, and that's I swear I'll kill her. And then Batman says, I believe you. And then so we know they can't use KG Beast, but you could potentially use Rocket Red, and I would be up for that.
They could use Vlad and his sidekick Donnie.
Come on, Donnie. We need to kill this Batman and this Wonder Woman.
I kill him.
They're going to make these stories great again. I promise you.
It's going to be super fantastic.
Don't use the slogan.
Scott Schneider. Sorry to lump you in.
Scott Schneider.
Yeah, the guy that makes hot dogs.
Yeah. With a name like Schneider.
Is it Schneider or Snyder?
It's Snyder.
Snyder?
It's just SN. It's Snyder.
Well, I don't know. Some people add a little H-E.
Well, that's true. Sorry.
Like Sinead O'Connor.
That's true.
So, go fuck yourself.
Nothing compares to you.
No.
Nothing compares to you.
Yeah, but she did the cover.
Yeah. So did Chris Cornell. Look where he ended up. So Scott Snyder had big plans for Hawkman.
Hung out to dry.
No.
Captain Marvel and more post-metal.
Yeah, I'm going to plow right through that. Yeah, so...
so don't fuck with my Snyder comments.
Oh, terrible. I can't believe that. This is so much for you to edit.
With great power comes great opportunity to be really evil.
Just keep it going.
Oh god. Oh yeah, I'll try. Yeah, so
but nothing compares.
Yeah, that's right.
What's Scott Schneider doing?
We know already.
Scott Schneider.
So we know already from what's happened in Dark Days, The Forge, and Dark Days casting, and what's happening in DC Metal, that it's tied to Hawkman. They talk about the 9th metal, also known as Nth metal, which is part of Hawkman's universe, and we know that we have metal. Carter Hall's sort of journal has been like a narration through those Dark Days books. So Scott Snyder very perhaps obviously says that there are big plans for Hawkman post-metal. And it's not going to be the Qatar Hall, the alien Thanagarian version that we had, like the Savage Hawkman from the New 52. This will be the Carter Hall, the reincarnating version that we had like right at the end of the pre-Flashpoint universe. Now, Captain Marvel, he's not called that anymore. I'm going to take serious flack for this because there are some of our followers on Twitter are very passionate Shazam / Captain Marvel fans. He was called Captain Marvel forever. They couldn't call the book Captain Marvel because Marvel Comics, blah, 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 legal thing, blah, blah, blah. But they finally changed the name of the character to Shazam in the New 52. And some people don't want to admit that that's happened. And that's fine. Like, you love the character, you call him whatever you want. But his name is Shazam. He's not Captain Marvel. We just have to accept that and move on. But we haven't seen him at all in Rebirth. And he's in that big Rebirth image with all the heroes like reaching for that hand. And we haven't seen him at all. He's been very, very absent. But they've sort of teased, that there's going to be some big things coming for Shazam and the Shazam family coming out of that. So
The Shazamily?
Oh my God. The Shazamily. That's such. They should use that. DC execs.
Shazamily.
We know you're. Don't say that. The lightning one.
Go away.
Yeah. So I am excited for that. He's a great character. I would love to see more of him, and there hasn't been enough lately. So yeah.
And for those of you who didn't listen to last week's issue,
not last week. We just put out a special though.
Days ago.
A few days ago, we put out a
this
special.
past week.
Well,
Yeah.
it was the last Saturday.
We did put out a special, and
The end of last week.
we announced some big news. Colin,
We're going to be in Whitehorse, Yukon.
we are for what?
For 24 hours of sunlight.
No, we're way too late.
We're going to get suntanning.
We're far too late, and that doesn't happen in Whitehorse.
We're going to get snow suntans?
No, we are doing a live
Oh, we're going to
episode.
Whitehorse, not San Diego.
That's right. No, we're doing it. We're doing live Dr. DC at the Yukon Comic Con, or better known as
Comic-Con. We're going to be there like August 25th to the 27th. We're doing a live Dr. DC podcast, and we will be, in Whitehorse, Yukon. We're very, very excited for that. If you're going to Comic-Con, bring your questions.
book your tickets.
Book your tickets. We want
Fly Air North.
Fly Air North.
They do the warm cookie.
I've heard about the warm cookie. Yeah,
So
that's
good.
Right, yeah.
Apparently, they stopped doing cheesecake though.
I never got that. I've
They
only
had
ever
cheesecake
What a
on the airplane.
Decadent airline. Come to Comic-Con.
It's like the 70s all over again.
But yeah,
you can smoke. There's whiskey, cheesecake, you name it. We got
you
it.
can just slap the stewardesses.
No, you can't. There's Wonder Woman out now. You can't.
Too
do that
many
anymore.
strikes this episode.
But no, it's where you guys come, bring your questions. We're going to be doing a live taping, and you guys can.
That's
be
right.
on.
Straight to tape.
That's right. It's going to be so much work for me to cut this thing together.
That's a lot of long nights.
If you want to hear all the stuff that we normally edit out, show up.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh God, do they really want to?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You want to hear the terrible things that don't make it on.
Well, get ready to hear the stuff that did make it on this week's episode.
So
Dr. DC gave me yet another comic book assignment.
Oh yeah.
that's right. So the comic that I gave to Colin without any context or anything like that was
This was cruel.
it was.
Brutal. This was a dick move.
But how do you feel?
You're a dick.
Okay.
You know when doctors scribble on the notepad like a prescription, you take it to your pharmacist and they just kind of do their best.
You know when they make you pay for the doctor's note? That was like this.
No, this was worse.
So, just so that everyone can maybe get a glimpse of why Colin is so upset with me, I gave him the Multiversity Ultra Comics #1, which is admittedly
The worst.
no,
What?
the weirdest book that I own. Now, I know you're angry. You're giving me the death stare, and that's fine. That's understandable. I gave you like a crazy weird.
Yeah, we had to send you as far out as we possibly could so we can pull you back.
Yeah, I gave you the weirdest comic I possibly could. But if you are able to contain the rage, I would love to hear you give a bit of like a synopsis of this issue. Like what happens? Take it away.
So essentially, the protagonist is this made up 3D printed bullshit superhero that apparently can jump through space and time. Then there's this.
What's his name?
I don't fucking remember. Douchebag McGee. He looks like an everyman.
First of all,
he looks like an American, like an all-American boy.
Sure.
Looks like.
Did you read this?
I did. Trust me, I read it. I was so mad the whole time.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
I don't care what his name is. He portrays this like we're all him apparently or some shit, which just bothers me to no end.
So let's what happens?
What happens is he's created in a lab. He gains AI consciousness from the sounds of things. There's a part where there's some dickhead at a desk who says, "This is your second to last warning. Don't read any further." It's a lot of don't read any further stuff.
Right. Lots of like kind of fourth wall breaking.
And then he goes to some help call on some planet. I don't know, like is Earth-ish.
Yep.
And there's these kids there, and it's kind of like a Lord of the Flies kind of thing.
Yep.
And he's looking around, and there's like Superman, but they're all deformed. Like all the superheroes are all crazy deformed.
Yeah, they're kind of insectoid.
Yeah, they're so gross and repulsive. And so he tries to save these kids because that's, what as a reader you would think like, oh, like the adult has to help the kids. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take you to the adults because he asks for that. And he has to help them carry this thing to them because the kids can't do it.
Yeah.
And then it ends up opening up, and there's this like giant eye with bat wings and some crazy nonsense, and they strap him to some machine where this like thing like bites this gem that's in his forehead that's implanted in there from the beginning, and that's apparently some kind of like superpower piece. It's very important, like it's like a key lock for him kind of thing. It's very important. And then he's like, well, I control that thing, and so now it's like some kind of like acidic kind of thing that like rots through the guy, and he like throws it up or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
And I hate this comic book. I really do.
But
at one point he's like a billion-year-old man, but then he just like gets enough strength to like jump into the past and then come back as like young him again. And then but he knows what's going to happen because he just lived it already. And so it's a lot of back and forth, and I really didn't care for it. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible comic book.
Okay. Now that's a very, very cursory look at this. I want you, if you have questions while I'm going through it, to ask them. But I think when I explain this, you actually might appreciate it more.
Probably not. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because multiple times in this book, you're told what to think as a reader, and that pisses me off to no end.
Okay, like, is there an example?
Well, there's multiple examples. Right out of the gates, he's like, you know what my voice sounds like because it's your voice. And just shut the fuck up. Be a if you're a superhero, just be the superhero.
Even this, I think you'll appreciate when I explain this.
And then there's the guy at the desk who ends up being the eyeball with the wings, and he's kind of a dick too. And so there's that whole thing.
Okay.
But he's also very like kind of telling you what to do but not to do it.
Yep.
It's a lot of kind of backward psychology. It was really just kind of a frustrating, annoying read for me.
Okay. So now I want to go through this again, and I'm going to explain it. And I think, you may still be frustrated by it, but I think you'll understand it, and it might make some of those things make sense. So, Colin is right. We see the creation of this hero, and the hero's name is Ultra Comics. I'm going to back up a little bit.
Oh, right. That's why it was so forgettable, because the name was stupid.
I'm going to back up a little bit and give some context. This is a one-shot comic. It stands on its own, but it's part of a longer series called the Multiversity, which is all about parallel Earths. And for those who follow us on Twitter, you may have noticed that I have our Twitter account as being located on Earth 33 of the Multiverse. Earth 33 in DC Comics refers to the real world, like our world where we don't have superheroes. The conceit, the idea of Ultra Comics comes from this idea that I think Morrison himself might have set up. Oh, no, it was set up long before him. But there's an idea that there are comic books on each of these parallel Earths that tell stories about characters from other Earths, and that like writers and artists get sort of like subliminal like hints of real events from other Earths. So if I go to Earth 2, there might be a comic book about us recording this podcast.
Yeah, well, and there was a point in this too where they're like, oh, well, we know who you are because of this comic book.
Right. So the idea is that comic books are this sort of window into the real events of parallel Earths. So we on Earth 33, because of our limited technology and rigid laws of physics, as it says in this book, don't have superheroes. Our only superhero is this comic book. Ultra Comics, the book itself, is the superhero. So in the pages, when he's saying,
pretty shitty superhero.
just wait. When he's saying things like, you know my voice, it's yours, it's because he's saying, you're reading this comic that gives me power. That gem in his forehead that you talked about, it's called the Ultra Gem, and basically it pools the collective power of the consciousness of readers who have ever read this book, past, present, future, and it gives him the power of like our imagination and empowers him to protect us in this sort of multiversal thought realm. That's a very crazy thing, and I'll admit that, but that's what he is. So every time he says like, oh, I hear a little bit of an accent here, a little bit of that, he's referring to like the demographics of real world readership. Because we are Ultra Comics is the idea that all of us reading it give him power. So one of his powers...
This is like some Peter Pan shit. Like, I'm sorry, but like, oh, just think good thoughts and you can fly. Like, fuck off.
Well, it's not...
You're doing it, Peter.
Like 100% fuck off.
It's not quite like that.
A lighter can take this guy down.
It's not quite like that. So we see his creation in a lab, and we see him go through like different phases of superhero-dom. They program like Golden Age superhero where he says like, take that, Buster. And then we see Silver Age where it's very like sci-fi. We see like Modern Age where there's like an ultra girl that's like murdered and he's like, why? So he kind of goes through all those different phases of comics. And we get to, what you talked about. He's sent on his adventure. So he goes to this Earth that's, all torn up. There are these kids. It's kind of
New York City.
It's kind of Lord of the Flies, exactly. And he brings this cube back to their base for them. And this cube shows up in other Multiversity books. And basically it can open doors between parallel Earths. So in the context of this comic, that
it's not the eye that bites it off him, it's that other Ultra.
There's another Ultra.
And that guy's a dick too.
He is. And he bites the Ultra Gem and like swallows it and like rips it out of Ultra Comics' forehead.
I didn't even put any seasoning on it.
And then Ultra Comics uses that power of imagination, because the Ultra Gem is pure thought, because it would have to be, because it's the only connection we have to a comic book is thought.
Well, then he spurns on the kids to be little cannibals too. Like,
yes, the kids are cannibals. That's a subplot that doesn't really go anywhere, but.
Well, no, because they don't eat them.
But he uses
they actually help him.
He uses the Ultra Gem to turn into a solvent, and that's how he defeats the other Ultra. And then, Colin has talked about this guy. We keep cutting back and forth to this guy behind a desk, and he says, like, don't read this comic. Stop reading the comic.
This is your last warning.
This is your last warning. Don't read the comic. And then he is revealed to be this giant eyeball with bat wings called Intellectron. And Intellectron is a member of the Gentry, and they are basically thought forms, negative thought forms, apathetic thought forms.
Or like the comment threads on a Facebook post.
Yeah, and those are in the comic.
Yeah,
there are sort of like faux threads, like, oh, like a giant like eyeball egg, like what a stupid fucking thing. Like basically, if Colin could take comic book form, he'd be those threads.
Yeah, except for I'd be way better at it.
Well, fair enough.
Those guys are amateurs.
But so the Gentry are the big villains of the whole Multiversity series.
The eyeball was a Gentry?
Yes.
Oh my god. Bored.
So Intellectron shows up and he like rapidly ages Ultra Comics. He's like defeating Ultra Comics with these negative, apathetic thoughts, because that's the antithesis of what powers Ultra Comics, which is our enthusiasm for reading comics and participating in the story.
Oh, good. I'm the giant eyeball egg with wings.
Now, what we haven't talked about is this comic opens with Ultra Comics, and he's leaning on the side of the page, and he says, "Oh my God, thank God I made it. Blah 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 blah. Like, be careful, don't keep reading." So what happens when we get further?
So much of that, though. There's so much like, don't keep reading, but if you want to, like.
So when we get further in, and he's rapidly aged, he says, "There's only one shot. I have only one chance," and it's implied that that's when he travels back to the beginning of the comic, and he regains his youth, which he does say on that first page. And then he comes back, and he's young again, and he says, like, into Electron, "You're just a thought, and your thought rendered into text and on like cellulose, and thought is vulnerable to criticism." And he basically turns that sort of like hate machine that comic readers have against Intellectron. And it works for a little bit, but not ultimately. And his big sacrifice at the end is to reveal that he himself, as Ultra Comics the book, is meant to be the trap. If you close the book, you'll trap the Gentry, and they can't make it into our world. They can't infect Earth 33. And that's basically the end of it. But it is implied that the Gentry may already have made it. They've made it into our thoughts. We've become cynical and apathetic and are losing imagination.
Oh, no, I didn't become. So I started out pretty cynical.
But this is precisely the point. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I understand why this is a frustrating read. It's a weird comic, and it's not linear, and it's characters you don't know, and there's a million reasons why this is a frustrating read.
It's not just that it's characters that you don't know, because there are some characters in there that you do kind of, I guess, loosely know. Like, there is that scene where there's like Superman spewing bile.
It's
but
basically
he's like
just an
bug.
insect in a Superman suit.
Exactly, but you're recognizing the figures
Sure.
that are around them. The thing that I had the most trouble with was the fact that, like, for this entity to be a fucking superhero, like, create a superhero.
But they did. But the point is that in our world, we can't have a person
Such
that...
a cop-out, though. Every part of this story is a fucking cop-out.
How's it a cop-out, though? This is actually like a really brilliant...
Don't keep reading. Oh, anything you think is that's pretty much what it is. Like, give me a fucking story to read.
Colin likes linear comics. Note taken.
I like things that make sense.
Well, I'll give you this. This does not make sense unless you really dive into it. And I'll give you that. But what I like about it is this is classic Grant Morrison. He's going to like the weird place. But basically, the argument he makes is that thought itself is a realm that needs protecting, and the only true superhero we could have on our Earth
is intellectual copyright.
Is if we imagine like that comic books are these kind of windows into other realms and what's happening. This comic book itself is the superhero. It's our collective thoughts and enthusiasm, and what the book warns against is that sort of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't blame you, but actually, like, what the Gentry is you, Colin. Like,
they should have made it a lot better looking then. But
there are multiple entities of the Gentry, and if you read the other books, there are different ones, and then they all come together in the big sort of finale.
Oh, so like they're like Transformers, they just like team up.
No, I don't mean like physically come together. I mean like as a group, like a team.
I think the thing that I had the biggest struggle and trouble with this wasn't the bouncing around, wasn't even the lack of real true character building at all. It was just the fact that you were being told, "Oh, don't go over there," in this very cheeky way of like, you're gonna do it anyways though, because it's a fucking comic book and you're a nerd and you're gonna keep reading anyways.
Yeah, and that's fine. It is cheesy, but
there's a part right out of the gates. I took a picture of it on my phone and we'll post it on our Instagram.
Sure, yeah.
Where it's like don't read ahead. That's like the part right at the very beginning. Yep. And the first time I read it, I was like, all right, fine, I won't.
Okay, but now let's take this and run with it. Let's imagine you saw that and you said, all right, fine, I won't. You closed it. you still prove the book's point. You win. You beat the Gentry if you do that. Because then those negative thoughts, you were engaged with the story and you actually like kind of did
like the only
what
reason
it told you
I
to.
kept reading this fucking thing was because we have to do this.
But then you would win.
I'm pissed that I kept reading because it like wasted my time.
But you know what I mean? Like in a way, it's almost kind of foolproof. If you did put it down and close the book and never read it again, then you would say like, all right, you told me to do it. And you wouldn't come in this angry. You'd just be like, that was a weird thing to do. And you would win. You can act like... That's Morrison's. I mean, I love his writing because he goes to this very esoteric place, but it's kind of brilliant that way. If you keep reading, then the bad things with the Gentry come true. If you don't keep reading, you beat them. But either way, the idea of Ultra Comics as our hero and our protector, and that the book itself is the trap for the Gentry, or possibly the trap for Ultra Comics himself, is still true. Whether or not you like it, or whether or not you do what it says, you still prove it right. And that, I think, is what I love about this book. I'll be honest, I still don't fully understand it. I think I get it pretty well, but I mean, every time I read it, I find something new in it that I didn't catch before. And that was true this time around when I reread it.
The advice that you gave me, which I really appreciated, because like in doing all of this, like, I don't know a whole lot about comic books or the cartoon characters that are in them. But the whole reason why we were doing this in the beginning was that you came to me and you're like, hey, I have this really fun idea for a podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course I said yes, because I'm a glutton for humor and punishment, I suppose. And is kind of the same reason why I kept reading after that point, where my brain says, fuck it. I'll just stop. If you're that hell-bent on writing down and drawing a cartoon that's like, don't read any further.
Yeah.
Like, all right, fine. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna then. The reason I kept reading was because of this, because we were doing kind of an educational sort of thing.
Yeah. It doesn't make for a great episode if like neither of us read it.
Yeah. Like, I got to the point where he said to stop reading, so I stopped reading.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty good cover though, right? He's got like a cyborg guy. It's kind of neat. He kind of looks like Superman, but he's douchey.
Yeah.
And blonde. But the reality for me is just kind of comes down to the fact that like, regardless of what the author's intent is or was, it kind of comes across kind of condescending.
I can kind of give you that.
It's kind of like, I don't know the guy, so I can't say shit all about him. But his style of storytelling, I suppose, in this was condescending as fuck, and it kind of made me want to punch him in the head.
See,
in a non-physical,
I think
way.
Grant Morrison, to me, if I had to like sum up his writing, he's the guy that has captured the Silver Age tone and style. So that means like comics from like the 50s and 60s. He's captured that style and been able to write modern comics in that style in a way that no one else can really. Like, he's one of the only guys that still writes like that. Now, the other thing that I'll mention that's kind of like supplementary multiverse knowledge is that it's implied very strongly that that thoughts from Earth 33 may actually be powerful enough to create Earths, which is just a fancy way of saying that DC Comics as a corporate entity exists on Earth 33, and as we have creative individuals here, we do in fact create worlds when we write a comic book. But again, it feeds back into that idea that comic books are sort of the window into other worlds of the multiverse. And I think it's a neat idea to like, how do you tie the real world into that? We can't have a book about an actual superhero, but he kind of made a superhero. He just told us it was a book. Yeah.
Then why isn't it a book and a cape and not some blonde dude?
Well, but the character that sort of all American guy. Yeah, that's the pictorial representation. But the actual physical book you're holding is his essence. That's why he's able to move. He has what's it called? Like narrative teleportation.
Yeah, because there is a point where he starts saying like, "Oh, these thought bubbles are kind of old school. I'm gonna do it in like a narrative text," and then they just carry through.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but it just most of it comes off very condescending. and like, I'm so much smarter than you.
I will officially apologize for giving you this to read, because it is, for someone that doesn't read comic books and doesn't, follow DC or its lore or anything like that, I couldn't have given you something harder to... Well, no, sorry, that's a lie. Final Crisis, also written by Grant Morrison. This is the second hardest...
Don't give me anything else by Grant Morrison.
This is the second hardest thing I could have given you to read. And so I do apologize for that. But my ulterior motive is that, I really love this book, and I wanted to talk about Ultra Comics, and I knew it was never going to happen otherwise. And B, I wanted to talk about the multiverse. It came up a little bit in our episode about God, and I like this idea of parallel Earths. And if you listened to our special episode about San Diego Comic-Con news, we even touched on it a bit there, because we were talking about Freedom Fighters The Ray and how that takes place on Earth X or Earth 10. And actually, there's a different book in this series. If you're ever interested, it's not this weird. It's called Mastermen. It takes place on Earth 10. You get to see the new Reichsmen and the Freedom Fighters. But yeah, so I know the answer to this, but knowing that there's more to this series, and knowing that I am swearing to God that I don't believe, swearing to the presence,
science and the presence.
Yeah, I'm swearing to science and the presence that the other issues of this series are not like this, not this weird. Are you at all interested in reading other things about the multiverse?
Two-part answer.
Sure.
This wasn't that weird. It's not that this comic was weird.
Okay.
And I think I've stated that a couple times. It was condescending and ridiculous. Would I read other stuff about the multiverse?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
But just don't give me shit that's condescending and redundant. Every part of this, every step along the way was like, don't go any further. Ha ha ha.
So you don't like the cheekiness. You don't like that kind of...
I don't mind cheeky, but
I think Grant Morrison thinks he's very smart.
Yeah, he's very full of himself.
And he's right, though.
And you get it in his reading.
I think he's just aware of it.
I think he's right. I often don't feel smart enough for Morrison's work. Maybe that means he's condescending. Maybe.
Maybe he should be smart enough to play to his fucking audience.
Yeah, you can definitely make that argument. I can't really fight that maybe
let me put it in a perspective from my point of view as what I've done in my life. So as a touring musician, I've come across other bands who are very smart.
Right.
And they're not very fucking successful.
Sure.
Because they don't understand the fact that you kind of have to...
I've played math rock.
You kind of have to feel into your audience, and you have to feel into it. If you're playing music that literally no one gives a shit about...
Fine. And you know what? And that's a totally fair point.
Because
my only counter is that Grant Morrison is wildly successful.
Actual fans of comic books and all the rest. Yeah. But that's the thing, is that he probably has... And this is coming from me. I don't know fuck all about the guy, but he has an established fan base.
Yes,
he has people that
absolutely.
Are oh, this is my go-to guy. But 8, 9, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, going to the comic book store is not going to pick this one beside all these other comic books.
A, not for kids. It's B, not for casual readers. You are 100% right.
25-year-old guy is not going to pull that one if it's his first, second, 12th comic book.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And ordinarily, I would never recommend it, but I did kind of want us to have this conversation.
I just wanted to see what would happen.
A little bit.
I just want to set the world on fire. See someone bring a bucket of water.
Someone on Twitter basically said that they couldn't wait to hear your head explode.
All right, let's move on to it.
Sure, yeah. I think we've probably done that one. Yeah.
Grant Morrison, thanks for the art, I guess. Whoever drew the artwork was really cool.
It's Doug Menke.
Doug Menke?
Yeah.
Well, I like him.
Yeah.
Because the illustration was fantastic.
Oh, there you go. So it's nice to get a positive out of that too. Yeah.
Well, and I think that was kind of established too with my reading of Ragman. I really enjoyed.
That's
the
true.
aesthetic.
I think you do look out for the art a lot, which
We
is
need to
nice.
give him some Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale.
I think we could probably do that. I know you've been gunning for Jeff.
I know. Let's move forward with this whole idea of multiverse, I think.
Yeah.
We have any questions about that?
Yeah, on Twitter, where my head apparently was going to explode.
Yeah.
who wrote that? I'm curious.
Oh, I can't remember
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
okay.
And my
Grant
phone's on air.
Morrison.
It was
Yeah.
Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison. Go.
Can't wait for this dummy to get exploded.
He's gonna not get it for sure. I don't know why I think he talks like that, but
I like the idea that he's very smart and still talks real stupid.
Again, Long Island or something like that. Yeah.
on Twitter, Mallory Vanier had
Back again.
back for more at Dr. DC.
Yes,
What?
she's back. Mallory's back. Back again.
Nope, stop it. Everyone stop it. We have questions. Stop it. Stop it. We're adults. We're professionals. Let's do this thing. No, we're not. Mallory Vanier. God damn it. Oh, my goodness. Why do we do this? What universe or planet is Captain Carrot from? Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And are there other powers there other than cartoon physics? Hashtag carrots so dope.
Yeah. So Captain Carrot is a real character. So there is an Earth in the multiverse. It's Earth 26. Pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, it was Earth C, but now it's Earth 26. And that world is full of anthropomorphic animals. And so...
It's a carrot, though.
No. Captain Carrot is Rodney Rabbit. He's a cartoonist on his world. And he eats this like irradiated thing called a cosmic carrot. And it gives him these incredible powers. Powers much like Superman. The strength, the
he's
speed.
like Popeye.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess, yeah. But he gets the strength, the speed, all of those other things. And also... But what Mallory's referring to here is the idea of cartoon physics. So
Cosmic cabbage.
Or
spinach. Spinach.
Yeah, it's spinach for
Cosmic
Popeye.
cabbage sounds better.
It does.
Cosmic cabbage is for like the Ukrainian Popeye.
Popovich?
What? I don't know what.
trying to do
Are
the,
you
like-
choking?
Oh, can we say Heimlich maneuver anymore? Is it the J stroke?
I was trying to like come up with the but for like the Ukrainian. Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Right. So Mallory
Legs for you.
Mallory is asking about cartoon physics. So it's been proven that actually this whole universe, they're not just anthropomorphic animals, they're actually like a cartoon. Not like one you could watch on TV, but their world has that sort of cartoon physics. It was destroyed in Crisis on Infinite Earths, but these characters have memories from pre-Crisis. Basically, that whole universe kind of like bounced back. Captain Carrot has been crushed like flat, like a pancake, and then he like springs back up like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Cartoon physics is not just a power of the super beings of Earth 26. It's actually like part of that universe. And Captain Carrot himself, like he's been like decapitated, and then he can still like his body still runs around while his head's like over here. And
Very Roger Rabbit.
it's very, very cartoony. There's great Captain Carrot stuff in other books of the Multiversity, which if you ever forgive me, I'll show them to you because they're really fun. But yeah, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, that's that version of the Justice League.
It's a Zoo Crew.
That's way
all
better
this
than like the
together.
Doom Crew.
Yeah, like Pig Iron and Fastback and a few others.
It's a Zoo Crew.
So what Mallory's
Best
asking,
defense for
are there
better.
are there other powers there other than cartoon physics? Cartoon physics is the baseline power of that universe. And then yes, Rodney Rabbit gains extra powers like strength, and he can like leap over cities and things like that. He gains extra powers from eating the cosmic carrot. And a lot of other characters on that Earth gain
you just
powers
choke on some
that way
cosmic
too.
carrot?
Yeah, I did. I hope that answers the question though.
I hope so too.
Last question.
Last question. I like the fact that we're pting their names in.
I did it.
That's
I
deliberate.
did it for you.
That's
that was
deliberate.
driving me crazy.
People can't find them on Twitter now, but at least they can pronounce their names.
That's right.
And they have some anonymity from their terrible Twitter handles.
Nah, you probably could still find them.
Kevin Cross, what character can travel the multiverse the best or with the most ease?
Right. So traveling between universes, we did talk about this a little bit on the last episode. I hypothesized that Phantom Stranger was able to do it because his powers come from the sphere of the gods, which is beyond the orrery of worlds where the parallel Earths are. But there's a couple of answers to this. One very obvious one is the Flash. The Flash is tied to the Speed Force.
Fastest man.
He is.
So yeah, naturally.
The Flash is tied to the Speed Force. The Speed Force is actually, it forms a wall around the orrery of worlds, and by vibrating at a different frequency, the Flash is able to pass into an alternate Earth. So the Flash, by far, is probably the person that could do it the easiest.
So you're saying building the wall is the right thing to do?
It's going to be a great wall. It's made of Speed Force. No one knows what it is.
No one knows where it is. No Mexicans, though.
30 feet high, 40 feet high, all Speed Force.
Marvel Comics are going to pay for it.
That's the one. That's two episodes in a row with a wall reference.
That's right.
So there are a couple of other answers to this, though. In the New 52, there's a character called Vibe, which we know from having seen that Flash teaser trailer.
That's right.
He's Cisco Ramon. He has like vibrational powers. Now, when he showed up like back in the 70s or 80s, his powers were literally like breakdancing and like shooting some
with a name like Vibe,
beams.
obviously.
Yeah. And then he was the first Justice Leaguer ever killed in action.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But in the New 52, they tied it to like Darkseid's invasion. He's like caught in a boom tube explosion, which is that sort of dimensional like transit system.
Also plays great music.
Yes. Boom tube. And because he's caught basically between dimensions, he gains the power of like the vibrational frequency of the multiverse. So he also is able to pass between worlds. And on the Flash TV show, he does that a lot. He opens breaches that let them pass into other Earths.
That's right.
So Vibe and the Flash are probably the two that can do it maybe the most easily.
Not Supergirl or Superman.
They have traveled to other Earths, but not under their own power.
Okay.
It's been like there's a tear in space time, or there's, you know, like they fall through a black hole or something. Sorry?
Aren't they fast enough?
No. They are super fast, but nowhere near as fast as those with the Speed Force. And their speed doesn't come from the Speed Force. They're just fast.
Yeah.
It's the Speed Force itself that gives that ability, because that's sort of tied to the fabric of the multiverse. So yeah, if I had to answer the question, I'd say Flash and Vibe probably have the easiest moving between worlds, but there's also, if we like zoom out from the multiverse, at the very kind of edge before you hit the source wall, there's a thing called the Monitor Sphere, and I've talked very little about the Monitors, but they are these sort of multiversal beings. They kind of like administer the multiverse, right? Like they're sort of like they're the administrator.
They're the aliens like hitting the little like in the Men in Black with the marbles.
I mean, you could probably make that argument.
Yeah. I did.
And because they are multiversal,
Yeah.
they can go into whatever world they want whenever they want.
So what about Dr. Manhattan?
Now, Dr. Manhattan is a relatively new addition to this, but given that they're sort of putting him in this sphere of like altering the multiverse, then yeah, I would say Dr. Manhattan can do it too.
I feel like he can just like check in and out pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's probably safe to establish that that's what's happening
there.
there.
A point in Watchmen where he kind of checks out?
He does, but he just teleports in space. In Before Watchmen, he actually teleports in time and alters the past, and it causes problems. And that's where he gets his sort of mantra of like non-intervention, where the past and the present and the future are happening simultaneously. So he can move in space and time, and yeah, we only see him move from planet to planet in Watchmen, from Earth to Mars and then back again. And then at the end, he leaves. He said, "I'm going to go to another galaxy. Maybe I'll make some life there." But given what we're seeing with everything leading up with Rebirth to Doomsday Clock, I think it's fair to say Dr. Manhattan can probably do it too.
Cool.
I think
we did it.
think it covers pretty much everything. If you have any questions,
Yeah, I think we covered the multiverse. Yeah,
That's it. Done.
Yeah, it's multiverse.
45 minutes.
If you have any questions, you can always hit us up on our email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com,
on Twitter at
@drdc,
Facebook.
Dr. DC Podcast.
And if you want to check out any pictures we are posting or want to tag
I just
us
put up
in
a neat
something,
little boomerang on there. So
Google. You can check us out on Instagram.
Dr. DC Podcast.
also remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes.
That's right. And if you give us a 5-star review and give Colin a way to introduce himself and what he does.
What Colin does.
Yeah, what Colin does. We will read it on air.
No matter what it says.
Not we, I.
Yes.
Colin will read
do.
whatever you write.
All right, guys. Well, some kind of sign off.
Hail Zoltan.
Adios.
You guys.
Aquaman, all the superheroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.